We're live on both platforms. Woo! P.S. If it looks like I'm about to go on a run, excuse me, I am. As soon as this live is over, I told myself it's such a nice day out. It's like 66 degrees. The sun is shining. I'm going to put on my shades. I'm going to go on a run straight after this. So if it looks like I'm about to go on a run, I am. This is not my normal attire. This is not normally what I wear. But I decided to put it on now so that when I'm done with this live, I'm going to be exhausted. I'm going to try to convince myself not to run. But if I wear the clothes that I have to go run in, then I'm more likely to go and do it. So that's my game plan. That's why I'm here. But hi everybody. Welcome to this week's live. These are starting to get more and more fun the more that I do. Mostly because, first of all, the people that hang out on here are almost always on the lives. And you guys are incredible. Like, the fact that you guys watch this every single week, and even if you don't watch it live, but you watch it after, I love the fact that you do that. And a lot of you share my lives with the people that you know. And that's like the whole plan behind these lives. It's not to be a one and done show. Like, I want the things that I teach you right now to be things that help develop you now and in the future, and then to your kids, to their teammates, to their parents, because these are all things that are true life things that have happened in my life that I truly believe that if you guys implement some of this stuff, you will transform your game. And right now, yes, we're talking about the game of softball, but what's crazy and what I love about this sport so dang much is that the things that I learned in softball helped me become a better human outside of softball. And they made me a better student. They make me a better coach. They make me a better everything XYZ that goes on in my life. I am better because of this game, and that's why I'm so passionate about giving you guys the tools that worked for me that I hope work for you. So that's what's happening here today. Today we're talking, let's start with positivity. I had no idea that today was National Coaches Day until probably less than an hour ago. One of my online training students sent me this message saying, "Happy National Coaches Day, Ashley." And I was like, what are the odds that it's National Coaches Day? And today's topic that I came up with this morning that I had no idea this day existed is about what the best coaches have. What the best coaches look like. From how they coach their players to how they implement or how they are role models in their life. I just think it's the most ironic thing in the world that it's National Coaches Day, and I just happen to want to talk about this topic. I think things happen for a reason, and this is probably one of those things. So first of all, Sai, thank you for the message. Second of all, happy National Coaches Day to whoever, and I know Steve's on here, you're a coach, so happy National Coaches Day to all the coaches out there. It's so rad that today's a thing, and I don't know if you guys all knew that it was a day, but it is, and apparently it's today. So I think that's super rad. So that's my positivity of the day to hopefully make you smile. And if you're an athlete and you have a coach, which I'm going to guess in some sort of realm, you have some sort of a coach or a teacher or a mentor in your life, it's National Coaches Day. So I recommend that you guys go out there and you tell your coaches how much you appreciate them. Maybe a specific scenario where this week your coach helped you with something in your game. Reaching out to them and saying, "Hey coach, thanks for this tip. I've been working on it since I've been home and I'm really seeing a difference." Or, "Hey coach, thanks for being my shoulder to cry on when I was really struggling with this one thing. I'm glad you were in my corner when I needed you most." Just those little things help your coaches remember why they do what they do. So go send your coaches some sort of positivity in regards to how much you enjoy them. Happy National Coaches Day. That's my positivity for the day. Let's get to our topic. Okay, today's topic is strictly about what the best coaches have in common, because we all have some sort of coaches in our life. And in our mind, our coaches might be our parents. Our coaches might be teachers in whatever realm you're in. Whatever you do right now for a living, there's probably somebody that's better at what you do somewhere in life. And for you, you can think of them as a mentor or a coach or someone that you look up to in some sort of aspect of your life. So this doesn't have to particularly be about softball, but I'm going to relate today's topic about softball because that's what I know. Okay? So let's start with the fact that the best coaches are first and foremost invested in you. They're invested in you, in what you stand for, in what the team stands for, and your mission. So the best coaches out there are going to constantly be reminding you and your team what your main goal is. I hit my desk a lot when I teach right now. But it's true. The coaches that are the best at what they do are constantly reminding you of where you're headed. So I've learned this from a coach that I had, and I coach my athletes this way now. I have to instill in them what their future holds over and over and over and over to keep them going when they don't want to keep going. So the first thing that the best coaches do is that they're invested. They're invested in your goal. They're invested in the team's goal. They're invested in you and going to make a difference in whatever it is that you want to go and do. So that's what the best coaches do. If you have a coach right now that could care less about what's happening at home, could care less about how you feel in a certain situation, I don't think you should be playing for that person. And I know that's probably mean to say, but your health depends, your mental state, your mental health depends on you feeling like you're encouraged and you are led by someone who believes in you and what you're capable of. I like to give my dad the biggest shout out because he was the one who never let me settle for being average. And because of that, he was always really, really hard on me. And a lot of people, even in my family, were like, man, your dad is so hard on you. It must be too much for you to bear. And honestly, at the time, it sucked. When dad was hard on me and when we had our talks in the car after the game about, how bad I played, I'm telling you right now, he was also the first person to tell me when I did something well. And that's because my dad was more invested sometimes in my dreams than I even was. When I told him I wanted to go play college softball, every decision that I made, to go and do the thing, to go in pursuit of playing college softball, he was like, is that helping you get there? Is that helping you become a college athlete? And sometimes the answer was no. And it was one of those reality checks that was oh my gosh, Dad, you're right. That's not going to help me do that. And it's something where, as especially a young athlete when I needed that person, that mentor in my life telling me and guiding me in the direction that I wanted to go. So the whole topic of coaches should be invested in your dream and in your goal. That's the main reason why they should be, is because sometimes you forget where you're headed, and then whenever you're engulfed in some sort of struggle, you want to give up because you don't remember where you're headed, or you want to give up because it's painful, you're uncomfortable, but they help you get out of your comfort zone because they are invested in you. So that's the first thing. They're always updating you on your mission because when you need it most, they're there to help you get there. So that's the first thing that the best coaches in this game or in any game, or teachers, they're reminding you of where you're headed. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that they're constantly challenging you, okay? Your coaches should always be asking you to do something that you've either never done or that they know is going to make you uncomfortable. Now, what I'm saying here is not that they're making you pass out in every workout. That's not what I'm saying here at all. But as coaches, our job is to make sure that our athletes are uncomfortable in some situations. Because in a game, you are almost always exposed to something that you didn't expect, okay? Something in life is either going to punch you in the gut and wake you up real quick, or something in this game is going to happen to where the game starts moving very fast, and you need to be mentally and physically prepared for that thing. So your coaches, if they're constantly getting you out of your comfort zone, making you feel a little uncomfortable with maybe the way you approach the ball on a swing, or maybe your mental game, pushing your limits to see you struggle because they want to see you struggle. The best coaches, they want to see you struggle because once you get yourself out of whatever that struggle is, you have now become more empowered and inspired to go do something even better next time. So the fact that sometimes coaches, and they're going to tell you things that you don't want to hear. The best coaches are going to do that. They're going to tell you the things that you, in your mind, they don't want you, let you know that you don't want to hear it, but they know if you actually take it to fruition and take it to heart and do it, you will come out better because of it. So if you've ever had a coach, and I'll go back to my dad. My dad was constantly getting me out of my comfort zone. My dad was constantly making me talk about the games where I struggled. And, nobody likes to talk about when things don't go well, right? Nobody wants to continue to talk about, oh my gosh, I had, let's say in a basketball game, because he played basketball, he loved when I played, let's say I had 5 turnovers in a game. He would make me sit in the car and talk about every single turnover that I had in that game and why the thing happened. Like, why did I get a turnover there? Oh, it was probably because I was blindsided and didn't see that player coming down the court. Maybe I didn't take into consideration that one of the defenders was all over that player that I tried to pass the ball to. That's how a turnover happened. But, so for example, he was just telling me specifically what I did and had me talk about it, because a lot of times when you talk about the things where you struggled, you figure out how not to do the thing again. So he was challenging me, not just physically, but mentally, on why I was making mistakes that I was making. So because he was doing that, he was helping my brain figure out how to not do that thing again. So he was challenging me physically, especially, when we were working out all the time. He would sometimes be the one that would say, hey, you need to go hit today. Remember how bad you played this weekend? You need to go work on that thing that didn't go well for you. And because he was always on me to do that physically, he challenged me in that way, but he also challenged me mentally to talk about where I struggled. And that's where I feel like I gained the most, let's say, mental muscle. We're in those moments where I was struggling to come up with answers sometimes. And I would just sit there. He would ask me a question about the game, and I would just have sometimes brain farts, because one, I was exhausted after the game, but I wouldn't have an answer for him. And he would just make me sit in silence until I came up with an answer. He would make me just sit there and just think of an answer. And then if I was wrong, he'd be like, nope, try again. And I would just sit there and I'd be like, I don't know how to answer this question, Dad. And I am so drained. I'm so tired. I just want to eat and I want to go to sleep. And he's like, no, you're not getting out of this car until you answer my question. And at the time, I'm like, my dad is the worst human on the planet. But my dad was my coach on the court and off, on the field and off. And so it almost seemed like 24/7 I had to be mentally prepared for when he was going to fire some uncomfortable question where he was asking about my performance and I had to come up with an answer. He was constantly making me think about my mistakes and how I can make them better. And because he was doing that, I gained so much knowledge and this really good, I don't know, would you call it a strategy? Probably a strategy for whenever I struggled, I always had to say why I struggled and how I'm not going to do that again. And it's something where it's instilled in me now. When I struggle, when I do let's say a bad live, I've had some bad lives here before. When I have a bad live, I will not just move on to the next live and just pray and hope that it's better. I will go down to the nitty gritty on why that live wasn't good and say, okay, well, maybe my opening line wasn't that great. Maybe my positivity, I wasn't really invested in the words I was saying there. Maybe I didn't get much sleep the night before and I was exhausted. Maybe I just didn't prepare as much as I should have. I now go through every aspect of my life and I analyze where things went wrong because of that thing that my dad made me do. Because he was always challenging me to go out of my comfort zone. So whatever it is that you're going through right now, whatever it is that let's say projects that you're working on that you need to get better at and you need to grow from, try to get yourself out of your comfort zone and analyze why that thing happened. And this is totally a tangent because I wasn't planning on going over this specific situation, but it's a teaching moment and I really rarely pass up on teaching moments. So if there's something where in a project that you need to get better at, you know that you did not perform at your best at this situation or in this game or whatever, analyze what made that happen, and you will probably be able to figure out what made it happen and how you can avoid it the next time. So that's just something that my dad challenged me with when I was younger, but that's the second thing. So the first thing was that coaches do, the best coaches do, is that they're invested in every ounce of your being and in your goal, and they're reminding you of what it is over and over and over. The second one is that they're always challenging you. And this is where, I'm not going to say I'm just going to say it. Some coaches get this wrong. Some coaches don't want to challenge you to get you out of your comfort zone because they're afraid that you're not going to like them once they do it. I know coaches right now that are in this game that are scared to challenge their players because they want to be liked by their players. And I'm telling you right now, when I'm getting my players out of my comfort zone, for that first second, when I'm telling them what they have to do, they don't like me for a second. They don't like the fact that they have to go do this, and if they don't accomplish the mission, whatever I give them, there's a punishment. 5 burpees, okay? Last time I checked, 5 burpees has never killed anyone. So if that's my punishment, then that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of doing the 5 burpees. But they're also like annoyed that I just gave them that challenge, and they don't like it. My players don't like when I challenge them, and some coaches don't like to challenge their players because they don't like not being liked. And I'm telling you right now, because I give these players these challenges that I know that they are capable of winning and doing, they are going to come out better people because of whatever challenge I gave them. And then once they do that, and once they complete the challenge and they know that they were capable of doing it and they do it, they feel empowered, they feel inspired, and they feel freaking awesome after they do it. So they just went from not liking me to liking themselves even more, and I'm not here to take credit for it. This is something where these kids are just unstoppable on their own, and I'm helping them realize that the more they challenge themselves, the better they're going to feel about themselves in the end. So don't be afraid, coaches. Some coaches are on here. Don't be afraid to challenge your kids. And sometimes my kids don't win the challenge that I give them, and they have to go to sleep at night knowing they didn't win the challenge. But I promise them every time they don't win that they're going to be presented with that same challenge again. So they're going to go home and they're going to figure out, the next time Ashley gives you this challenge, how are you going to win at the challenge? That's my goal with them. It's to have them not always freaking out about challenges, but to learn how to accept the challenge and accept the thing that they're kind of scared of and just go at it anyway. One of the best coaches that I know, currently work with her now, she was saying you have to face the fear. And our goal as coaches is to give these kids a fearful scenario, something where they're like, oh my gosh, what if we don't do it? What if we don't succeed? And the reason why we have to keep throwing these situations where they are a little scared, they do have butterflies before they do it, is because it's in the face of fear where they get to decide if they're going to run through it or they're going to back up. And you want to constantly give players reasons to go through whatever it is that they're fearful of. Because the more they go through it, the better they become. All right? So our goal as coaches, and the best coaches that I know, are constantly giving their kids some sort of challenge or internal butterfly or fear to go and accomplish something. And when they do it, they feel empowered. And that's our job, is to make our kids feel empowered. One of the quotes from actually this book, Toughness by Jay Bilas, I did spend an entire live talking about part of this book, but there was a quote that I got out of it today that I really wanted to mention when it comes down to coaches that are challenging their players. This quote said, the best athletes are not fearless, they are just mentally tough and work hard at overcoming their fears. So the more challenges, the more fears you instill on your players, which are minute fears, they're not insane fears, the more opportunities they have to overcome the fear, okay? So I'll say this quote one more time. The best athletes are not fearless. They are just mentally tough and work hard at overcoming their fears. So our job is to give them scenarios where they have to do a little gut check and go all in, and whether they succeed or they're not, or they don't, they've learned from that, okay? So our job is to instill that in our players. So the more challenges you can give them, the more opportunities they have to overcome them. So that's our job as coaches, and the best coaches are constantly doing this. Another thing that the best coaches do, so I've gone over 2 things. The third thing that the best coaches out there do is that they're encouraging in practice their athletes to make mistakes. And I'm gonna dive into this because originally, when you hear that, you're like, what? We do not want our athletes to fail or anything, but we just talked about it. They are going to fail sometimes. And our job is to find their limit, right? Our job is to push them to their limit. So if you're giving ground balls, for example, and every single ball that you're giving them has them take 1 or 2 steps to the left or right, and they're really not moving that far to go get the ball, you are not specifically making them better. You are just making them really good at balls straight to them. Okay? That's what you're doing. You're instilling a ball that's going to be straight hit at your players. And last time I checked, most balls that are hit on the field are not that ball. Okay? So if you're only hitting balls that are super easy ground balls and they're barely taking any crazy hops, they're not being challenged. So these 2 kind of go in hand. but you have to be able to test them. Test them, see how far they can go to their left, see how far they can go to their right. A lot of times players don't like the backhand. So if you're hitting ground balls to your player, make them work on the thing that they're not as good at, because the more they work on it, the better they're going to be at it. So if they're bad at the backhand and you just want them to have a good day and never give them the backhand, sure, they're going to feel great, but they're not going to feel good the next time they get a backhand in a game and they don't know how to field it. So you have to be encouraging them to go for everything. So I'm just going to stay with the ground ball example. You're giving your kids ground balls and you're testing them to their left and their right, and they're having to take powerful steps, and they're learning how not to take a certain angle on that ball, how to go for that short hop, go get the short hop, or whatever scenario there is. Test them. Encourage them to go all out at something, and encourage them to make mistakes while they're doing it. And do not frown upon them in a practice when they're making mistakes, because they're already mad as it is that they didn't get to the ball. And the worst thing is you can rub it in with some salt and make it even worse, because then they're going to be afraid to fail. Our job is to not let our kids be afraid of failure. Our job is to see what they're made of when the failure comes to them. Okay? So give them scenarios, encourage them to go so hard at every single ball, because they will not. I'm telling you right now, you hit a ball down the 5-6 hole, which if you don't know softball, you don't know what that is, but technically it's a ball that's supposed to get through the infield. But if you try to hit a ball down the 5-6 hole and you notice that this player is not going after it, they're not even trying because they don't think that they can get to it, your job is to tell them they have to go for it. Your job is to tell them, you, no matter what, have to stop this ball and figure out how to do it. And then over and over and over, they fail. But I'm telling you, the more times they fail, the more times they're figuring out how not to do it. So let's say by the 50th rep that you give them, they figure out how to take a more powerful first step, how to get a better angle on the ball, how to make sure that they can see the ball going in that direction before it's hit. They are figuring this out. So they do not do that without failing over and over and over. They will find a way to do it. If you tell them that there is a way to do it, most athletes will put on their game hats and they will go so hard at every single ball and they will figure out what they're made of, because you are encouraging them to figure it out. Okay? A book that just came out that I cannot wait to read is called Everything is Figure Outable. And in especially the tough situations where you don't think there's an answer, there normally is. So if we're encouraging our players to figure things out, especially when SHIT hits the fan, that's the goal. It's to help them understand how to figure out situations that they don't originally know how to figure out, so that they become better humans because of it. So give them challenging situations, encourage them, encourage failure, especially in practice, because they will find their limits in practice, and then in games, the game starts becoming easier because practices are harder than the actual games. So that's another thing that the coaches do. They're encouraging mistakes. And here's the thing. I'll give you a prime example. There was a player who she failed in one of the games this weekend that we played. And her failure was not something like completely game-wrenching. We actually won the game, so it's not like this failure was something that, changed the game for us, but it was a tiny thing that I held her accountable for. And one of the things that I'm helping with most is base running, because I love base running more than anything in this world. And this particular base runner, I'm not going to say who she is or anything, there was a ball that was pitched, and it was actually pitched into the dirt before it hit home plate, and the catcher blocked it, and it kind of bounced off of her. So if you know anything about this game, if it's a ball where you can take advantage of on the bases and grab another base, your job is to read plays before they actually happen so you can advance on the bases. So this particular ball was thrown into the ground, catcher blocked it, it ricocheted off of her, and this player stayed at second. She was on second to start, this scenario happened, and she stayed at second. And I'm throwing this out there as a teaching moment because this is so huge. But as soon as it happened, she knew in her brain, she was like, oh, opportunity missed. Dang it, opportunity missed. And you could see it on her face. And I knew that she was mad at herself for not taking 3. And my job as a coach is to not rub the salt in the wound. That's not my job as a coach. My job as a coach is to tell her when she's in the next situation, how she should go about this thing. okay, the next time, because it's going to happen. There's going to be a next time for this scenario, and it's her job to be ready for it. And I told her as soon as that happened, and as soon as her teammate actually hit her in, so that was good. Like, she hit a ground rule double, and so she scored anyway, so it didn't bite her in the butt. But she came in the dugout, and we talked about it. And I said, instead of trying to just react after the plays happen and then go from there, you should be anticipating things before they happen. So instead of just trying to react and like hope that you can get to third, you have to say in your brain, it's your mission to get to third. And so if you're going to do that, you are going to start looking for the ball in the dirt. You have to anticipate it. You have to be on second base and almost say, throw it in the dirt, throw it in the dirt, throw it in the dirt. Because if it's going in the dirt, you're automatically going to go to third. And if you're anticipating that ball in the dirt, you, before the catcher even touches the ball, will be headed to third. I hope this is making sense, because this is how I broke a record at Purdue with stolen bases, is because I was anticipating what are the scenarios where I can take advantage of getting to the next base, and this is one of them. So when she came in the dugout, I said, the next time you're there, you're going to anticipate the ball in the dirt. If the ball's in the dirt, I'm going. Ball's in the dirt, I'm going. And you have to just say this in your brain, because if you're anticipating it and you want it, as soon as that ball is headed towards the dirt, you've already made your decision and you're going. But you will not be in that, let's say, offensive mode, game mode, if you're just trying to react to what happens in the end. So if you are reacting after the catcher's already had the ball hit her chest and she's already going after that ball, and then you go, too late. You're out. Okay? But the way you change the mentality in that situation is you anticipate it. So that's how we have to do this as coaches. We cannot rub salt in the wound when they already know that they made a mistake. It's not your job to tell them that they made a mistake. They already know that. Your job is to give them insight on how they can actually not make that mistake again. And a lot of times, you talking to them about how they mentally, processed, how they mentally processed what just happened, have them do the talking. Have them try to think of scenarios of how they can do things better. And when you know that that's right, you give them a high five and you say, darn right, and that's what you're going to do next time. And when you have other insight that will actually help the scenario even more and they haven't said that, then you can throw your 2 cents in there, because they are looking for ways to get better. They're not looking for ways to get punched and salt in the wound every time they do something wrong. They're looking for encouragement and insight on how they can grow from that mistake. Okay? So if we can constantly do that, that's what the best coaches do. I'm not telling you I'm perfect. Like, I am the farthest thing from perfect. Half the time, I have to catch myself. Sometimes when players make me mad, when they do something that I know that they shouldn't be doing, sometimes it does come out and I'm just like, dang it, so-and-so. I'm just like, you just did that 2 plays ago. And sometimes coaches, we get excited because we know their potential, but I've caught myself having to stand back and be like, okay, they know that they made a mistake. It's their job to overcome it. It's not our job to overcome their mistakes. It's our job to help them overcome their mistakes. So that's how we can do it. We can give them solutions to problems. So let's say, last thing that I want to say is that as coaches, the best coaches out there, they have higher expectations for the players that they have. So individually, every single player on the team is a different person, okay? Every single person on the team has a different goal for themselves, at least. But everybody on the team should have a goal, should have a mission as a team also. So you can have personal goals, but you also just should have team goals. And like I said earlier, when you're invested in them, in the team, you're constantly reminding the team of where they're headed and where they want to be, okay? If it's a national championship, it's a national championship. If it's winning state, it's winning state. But you have to constantly remind them of where they're headed. Now, in this situation, you have to know that your kids that you have certain expectations for yourself, and our job, or the coach's job, is to have higher expectations for the actual player than they even know that they're capable of. Because as coaches, we have to know that they are comfortable where they're at right now. And like I said earlier, we have to get them out of their comfort zones. But we have to tell them their potential. Because a lot of times kids are this is like the line of mediocrity. Our job is to instill in them this line of, let's say, expectations. Okay? This is what the mediocre teams are doing. This is what the average teams are doing. And this is what our team is doing. Our expectations are higher than the average. And because of that, we will become better than the average. So as a coach, it's our job to empower them by saying, hey, this is what the average team is doing. The average team is doing this many reps. We're actually going to do this many reps because this is where we're headed and this is where we want to be. So having expectations for your players, whether it's for their personal goal or the team goal, you have to have higher expectations, high standards on your team. If you're, let's say, doing some sort of like a shuttle run, or let's just say you're doing sprints to first base, make it easy, and you're having girls sprint through the bag, and some girls are sprinting past the bag 5 steps and then slowing down, which that shows me that they are going at this thing at 110%. And then you have some girls that are jogging through first base, like they're sprinting maybe like the first 5 steps, and then the last few steps they kind of like coast. If you're allowing that to happen, you are essentially telling your team that your standards aren't very high. If you're allowing it to happen, if you see it and you don't say something about it, you're allowing it to happen. And with that, your team is only going to get so far. Your team will not be able to accomplish the greater mission of whatever it is if you're allowing low expectations like that to happen. So it's our job to show them that they are capable of the amazing, of whatever it is that your team's goal is, but expectations like that, those have to be expected. You have to expect them to go above and beyond in everything that you give them. When they don't, you have to tell them that they're not. Because a lot of them will go into that and be like, oh, wow, I was coasting. And then they didn't realize it. But some of them are like, I don't know how to not do that. And it's our job to help them find whatever it is to make them go above and beyond and raise the expectations for themselves. So the coaches, it's your job to have higher expectations for your team than they even know is possible. When you, let's say, are running a practice and you tell them exactly what you're doing that day. We're doing this and this and this and this. And then they know specifically what's going on in this practice, and you encourage them to give 110% on every single aspect. And if they cut it short and they nonchalantly go at the second thing, because they crushed the first thing, but they go at the second thing like, oh, we're cocky, we know how to go through this and run our own practice now. It's your job to keep them in line and to show them that, no, they're not in charge here, you are in charge. So that's another thing where like coaches, they don't like to be the bad guy. Sometimes you have to be the bad guy, because if you let these kids run their own practices, then you're not doing your job. Why are you there? You have to be able to be there to be the mediator and to tell them what the expectations are, and to always tell them what the expectations are. And you should always have higher expectations than your players even know are possible. So that's pretty much the last thing that I have. I've definitely been talking only for 30 minutes. Oh my gosh, I feel like I've been talking for an hour. But those are basically I think I gave 4 examples of what the best coaches in this game do. They are invested in their team and in their mission and constantly reminding them of it. They are constantly challenging their team physically and mentally to overcome challenges all the time. 3, you're encouraging your players to make mistakes in practice, because the mistakes you make in practice are learning moments for the games, and the games will become easier when you encourage mistakes in practice. The games will become easier because they're finding their limit in practice. So encourage them to make mistakes. Encourage them to overcome obstacles. That's number 3. And number 4 is have higher expectations for your team than your team even knows is possible. So having those high expectations, it's what's going to elevate the game in every aspect. So have those expectations that sound scary, but once you meet them, you celebrate them. I guess that's like another bonus thing. It's like when you do succeed and when you do go after that goal and you accomplish it, you better be 100% like encouraging and celebrating that moment. Because like when you guys all pursue one mission together and you go achieve that mission, it's way more awesome when you're all so invested in it that like you almost shed tears because you guys worked so dang hard for that thing. Your players will work harder when you're constantly reminding them of where they want to be. And then when they get there, let's say whatever it is, when they want to go play in college and they've signed their letter of intent to do it, you better be their biggest fan and be behind them. Because that's what the best coaches do. The best coaches are always giving encouragement and always there when their player needs them most. I could probably list off 50 other things of ways that the best coaches do what they do. But I just chose 4 today. I just chose 4 because that was seriously the allotted time that I gave myself to do this live today. Like I said, there could be so many more, but these are some of the most crucial ones that I thought of when I was going over this itinerary for this live. And like I said, there's plenty more. And if you have other ideas of how coaches could be better and you want me to talk about it on a live, shoot me a DM and I will. I'm here to give you the information that I learned as a player. Like I said, my dad was one of my biggest influencers when I was growing up. He was my biggest critic, but he also was my biggest fan. He knew my potential. And because he was my coach and he led me to where I ended up becoming as a professional softball player, I am indebted to the things that he taught me. And it's my job now to teach these things to my kids and the kids that I work with and my family and all of the people that are in my life. So I want this to, hopefully if this inspired you, I want you to share this with your team or with other coaches that you know, or maybe even like teachers or people, because like I said, teachers are essentially coaches. They're not called coaches because it's not teaching, like school is not a sport, but this is where the people that are influencers in your life, mentors in your life, if they've inspired you, it is National Coaches Day. So like I said earlier, go tell your coaches that they're amazing or that they helped you with something and that you appreciate them, because coaches, it reminds them of why they do what they do. Last thing is, if you want me to be your coach, I'm doing a camp in November and it's in Fort Wayne. So if you live somewhere close to Fort Wayne, it's actually at Summit City Sluggers Complex. I'm doing a camp and I should totally know the date. It's November 9th. And if you're interested in coming to my camp and having me help coach you and encourage you and inspire you, and go to ashleybtraining.com to get some more insight on what's going on with that camp. Also, I do online hitting training. I'm going to be not only your physical coach on your swing, but also your mental coach. We'll get on live videos. We'll talk about how your mentality is as a player and what goals that you have for yourself. I'll help you figure out those. So if you're interested in that training, everything that I do and that I teach and that I coach is on ashleybtraining.com. So if you're interested in any sort of training that I give, I'm not saying that everybody's supposed to leave their instructors and go to me. This is just the stuff that I teach, and the reason why I do what I do is because my job is to not make you just simply a better softball player. My job is to make you a better human being through this sport. So whoever your coach is, like I said, shoot them a text and tell them that they inspire you in some sort of way. And here's the thing. If you absolutely love your coach, your job is to tell them that over and over and over. And I'm not saying I want all my kids to say this to me, but when I was a player, I did not appreciate my dad as often as I should have. I did not tell him thank you for all of the things that he's done for me lately. So this tiny little text, this tiny little thank you that you can send to your coach or to your dad if he's your coach, or a teacher or someone who inspires you to become a better person, simply sending them that text will absolutely make their day. And it's my job to help spread positivity. That's one of the things that people are like, man, you smile a lot. And I'm like, yeah, because I want people to feel good about themselves. So just the fact that it's National Coaches Day, I want you to send a text, some sort of message to a coach or a teacher or a mentor that you appreciate them. Okay? So that's the last thing I have for today. Go have an amazing week. It's an amazing day. I told the people that were on here at the very beginning, I'm wearing my running clothes because that was the only way that I was going to go out and actually run after this live, was if I was prepared for it as soon as this is over. So that's what I'm about to go do. I hope you do something that challenges you today, and go send your coaches a little thank you note for being amazing. All right. See you later. I'll see you next Monday at 2 p.m. I don't know what next week's topic is going to be. So if you have a topic that you want me to discuss, shoot me a DM. Maybe we'll talk about it. All right. See you guys later.